All this meeting to order. I know Justin's still awake.
Yes.
Okay. At the last council meeting, I had brought up some concerns that had been passed along to me by a member of the public about the Vanasper Day Camp. Staff did have Lisa get a hold of me the very next day, and we had a good conversation. The whole comment about the about what items were there for the children to play with, apparently was a non-issue, not at all. And in fact, Lisa explained to me that we probably have a lot more stuff to keep them occupied than a lot of other day camp areas. The only thing that we didn't get a final answer on was what the difference was in wages. But I did talk to the CAO after that, and he did say that the person that I was told we were being, or the municipality we were being compared against, had done their I forget what the study is that we've got coming this year.
Pay equity?
The pay equity, they had done pay equity last year, which had changed theirs quite a bit. So they may be ahead of us right now, but in fact, if we get our pay equity done, we may be right back in the same boat as they are come next year round. So that was good information. I thought I should bring it back up since I had raised it. We would like to acknowledge that the land we stand upon today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Neutral Peoples. Can I get a mover and a seconder for confirmation of the agenda? Councillor Fisher and Councillor Wilby, that the agenda for the regular meeting of council dated August 8, 2023 be adopted as circulated. All those in favor? And motion carries. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest from any member of council this evening? Seeing none. Minutes of the previous meeting. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Deal, Councillor Chartrand, that the council of the municipality of Huron East approve the following council meeting minutes as circulated. That's the regular meeting of July 18th of 2023 and the Committee of Adjustment public hearing of July 18th of 2023. Were there any comments or concerns on those minutes? All those in favor? And motion carries. Consent agenda. Item 6.1 to 6.6. Can I get a mover to accept these? Councillor Deal and Deputy Mayor. Is there anything that anybody wanted pulled from those before we approve them all as a group? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just an explanation on the joint procurement opportunities. Report there. What's that saying? I know it says it's for information purposes only, but is that just saying that opportunities will be looked at between?
Yeah, so certainly from a standpoint of when we get the stage loader and procure the SCBA equipment, there's an intent was to do that jointly. But this one in particular was speaking more about sorry, I'm just trying to remember exactly the word. The fire risk management plan has to be done. And so we're going to do that in combination with North Huron, Morris Turnberry, and ourselves. So procure a consultant to do all that. And then that same consultant will do our fire review, our fire service review, because it's pretty much the same type of people. So we'll do that our own. The other two aren't doing that. So we'll procure it all together. There'll be some cost savings in doing the project all together as opposed to individual. Those are the two that we're kind of looking at right now, but the main one that's focusing on at this point is just that fire risk management.
Oh, okay, because you just mentioned equipment and stuff like that. And
Certainly when equipment comes up, if there's opportunities to collaborate with them and get some bulk buying value, I guess, we'll look at those on a case by case basis.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anything else that anybody wanted to pull? All those in favor of accepting? Motion carries. Thank you. 7. Quick meetings, hearings, and delegations. I have 7.1 says delegation, but I don't have it.
Yep, there is none.
Okay. So we will go to 8.1 planning report, consultant or consent application C47 2023. And welcome, Shay.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. So this is for consent application C47. Yeah, the subject property is 75103 Morrison Line. It's outside of Brucefield. The applicant is New Morning Holstein Limited and the owner is Stuart and Joyce Wilson. So this is just an aerial of the subject property there. You can see that it's southeast of Brucefield, and the purpose of this application is for a surplus farm severance consent. Next slide, please. So the severed land here is approximately 4.95 acres or 2 hectares, consisting of a house, shed, and storage building. The retained land is approximately 95 acres of acre farmland. And just as a note here, a lollipop shaped lot configuration is being recommended as the rectangular parcel has the effect of removing some farmable land from the farm. For the next slide here, just for a reference, the rectangular lot is about 9.5 acres in size. In this case, we felt the lollipop lot configuration was more appropriate. Next slide. So the subject property is zoned AG1 and NE2 in the Huron zoning bylaw and designated agricultural. The Huron the application meets all of the surplus farm policies in the Huron official plan. The severed residential lot is kept to a minimum size of 2 hectares, and the house is surplus to another farm dwelling owned by the purchaser of farmland, so New Morning Holstein. And next slide, please. A couple of fake photos of the property just for visualization. Next slide. So no concerns were received from staff or other agencies. Comments were received from ABCA. We don't have any concerns with the proposal, but did recommend a minimum setback of 6 meters from the lot line of the severed parcel to the top of the bank associated with the drain. Staff do not agree with the suggested condition, as the owners have requested that the lot line be up to the drain to keep the planted hedgerow with the residential parcel. Next slide. So just so you can see visually here, so the 6 meter buffer would include the entire hedgerow that's planted by the owners recently. So talking with the owners, they suggested to keep their the lot line as applied for, just to keep the trees on the same property and for easier maintenance. Yeah, so the ABCA indicated that the suggested setback was just to ensure that maintenance, if needed for the drain, was continued on one property. So for this reason, I'm just recommending against that condition. Next slide. So the application is consistent with the PPS, conforms with the Huron East official plan and Huron East zoning bylaw. And as a result, the application is recommended for approval with the attached standard conditions.
Any questions, members of council? I just had one, the person that's buying the farm land, do they own the property to the north of that property?
No, they own a couple different properties throughout the county, not neighboring to the property.
My only concern when you look at, where you're severing is, and I appreciate why you did the lollipop shape, but to the, north of the laneway, where do they get access?
Yeah, so I've attached the condition that if needed, multiple entrances to the retained farmland will be required. So if they can't demonstrate that one entrance will be enough, they'll have to obtain 2 entrances to the retained farmland. And Public Works has indicated that this shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, all right. That's fine. Do we go to the public with this?
No, it's just a consent application.
Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Stepler, second by Councillor Chartrand, that the council of the municipality of Huron East acknowledge the report of Huron County Planner Shay Stahl dated August 2nd of 2023 and has no objection to consent application C-47 of 2023, provided the conditions as outlined in the planning report are met. All those in favor? And motion carries. reports and recommendations of municipal officers.
You,
Yep, sorry.
thank you. Thank you, Mayor McLeod. So, first report on your agenda is the Brussels Fire Hall and Huron County EMS expansion tender report. Just to remind council back, I think probably about 2.5 years ago, the original concept that was agreed between Huron East and Huron County was that Huron East would be the lead on the project and procure the work. Huron County would have inputs on their needs and requirements for the EMS station to be added on to the fire hall. Huron County would debenture Huron East would debenture Huron County's share of capital costs, with Huron County paying Huron East the principal and interest over a specified debenture period. Most recently, Huron County's indicated that they'd like to entertain a 5-year debenture period. Huron East could also invoice Huron County, in addition to the debenture principal and interest, a monthly or annual rent that would be indexed to the cost of living increases for the EMS portion. That rent cost is meant to cover capital replacement and repair costs over the life of the addition. Obviously, some administrative costs, maintenance costs for the building, grounds, equipment, parking areas, snow removal, grass cutting, things like that. Our insurance for the building and property tax and loop. So Huron East will track and invoice Huron County for utility costs. So we tried to make, in the tender document, we tried to make sure that either services were separate, and where they couldn't be separate, that there'd be a separate meter so you could actually track their utility consumptions. Huron County will be responsible for cleaning up their own stations, supply of their own consumables, their own security system, their own IT systems, liability insurance, and contents insurance. So we issued a tender, design build tender on May 12th. The tender closed June 13th. We received one tender from Dawn Construction. A couple other bidders just indicated that they just didn't have this year to do the work. The total submission was $1,175,000 plus applicable HST. We did ask in the tender for them to break down the cost between the two pieces. So between the fire hall expansion, the EMS station addition, site works, and paving. So the fire hall expansion was $243,200. The EMS station addition was $729,300. Site works $153,000. So that's kind of just grading, cleaning up, landscaping at the end, and then asphalt the new parking lot that will go in behind at the rear. Just to give council a bit of a sense as to what the new development will look like. So just imagine on the east end of the existing building, we'll add on the additional bay for the fire hall. And then further east of that will be a new EMS station, which will have, if you look at it from a north-south perspective, the south piece will be kind of their office quarters. And then the north part will have a 2-bay garage, drive-through garage. They'll, I think the way I understand the county wants to do it is they will enter through the parking lot off the street just north of CN. I forget what that street's called. They'll come through into their bays and then they'll pull directly out onto that unnamed street at this point in time, which is an extension, I believe it's for Princess. So they'll just pull out that way. That makes it quick and easy for them just to pull out quickly and get onto the county road either way, whichever way they have to go. That's kind of how the layout will look. I'm recommending that the project also include an additional 15% contingency of 176. The fire hall expansion will include a new drive-through vehicle bay. Again, going to that same parking lot that the EMS station will pull out into. Then we'll have a bunker gear storage area, a bunker gear decontamination room, an SCBA bottle filling room, and a renovation to the existing area to provide a universal washroom with a shower. The expansion will allow for improved separation of clean and dirty zones. Right now, basically, there isn't as much separation between where the equipment is stored and where all the bunker gear gets kind of hung up and left to dry. This way it'll actually separate those zones. The firefighters will come in off the parking lot. They'll be able to, or the equipment, they'll be able to go through that bunker storage and bunker locker room. Then if they're necessary, go into a shower area, and then the bunker decontamination room where the bunker gear will get washed and cleaned is right adjacent to the bunker storage area, rather than it being dragged back and forth across the fire hall. So it definitely improves our health and safety by separating the areas. The Huron EMS station, as I mentioned, will have 2 drive-through bays and an EMS operation center for EMS personnel. The details of the above terms are incorporated into a draft form of given to Huron County, divided in attachment 1, which is basically kind of a lease arrangement. We can't finalize it just yet because we don't know what the final cost of the construction will be, so that'll have to be finalized. The rent amount we kind of determined to what it would be, and that's included in that agreement. And at this point in time, we are looking for Huron East to support awarding the tender to Dawn Construction, subject to Huron County's approval of the same project components at their next meeting, which is, I believe, next Wednesday. Correct me, I'm wrong. And once they approve that, then we'll give the approval to do that. So the recommendation is to award it, subject to the county also agreeing to proceed. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions to council? Councilor Sharkey.
Yeah, is the EMS building actually going to be attached to the fire hall or separate,
Attached to it, physically attached.
physically attached to it?
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. 2 questions. When was the start date, Brad? Do you to CEO Brad?
When the work would start,
Yes.
they had an earlier date, but we had to wait till the county council kind of got coordinated, so we asked them to extend the tender closing, or the tender validity period till after the council meeting next week.
The 16th is when the
Yeah,
council.
so I think we got until the 8th. So I would imagine probably a couple weeks for mobilization. They said 24 weeks from award.
Okay. Second question was, what was the budget amount, original budget amount?
Fire.
Yeah, I think from our standpoint, our budget was at 550,000, so ours is far lower than what we originally anticipated.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Brad, please, some math, please, Brad. 252,000, I think you said, for us. And then 140,000 for landscaping, et cetera. Who pays that? Half and half?
The site work in the asphalt, yeah, I'm believing it'll be 50-50 split.
So that's 252 and 70 is 322, and so roughly 350,000 for us. That's coming out of cash flow.
Sorry, I'll correct myself. Actually, I am splitting it 25-75.
Who's paying 75?
Where they are.
The county.
So then 300,000 for us. That's coming out of cash flow.
293,841.
Yeah, pretty close, 3.
Yeah.
We
I had
had,
your contingency on a 44,000, we're at 337.
All right, again,
we had budgeted 550.
I heard that part, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you. So this can be cash flow, so we don't have to borrow?
I think the original, we had 250 left from the previous budget in 2022.
Right.
And then there's some of it being funded this year. I just don't know off the top of my head, Counselor, whether we're cash flowing that through reserve or whether it's part of that capital borrowing. But I think it's mostly being cash flowed.
Well, we have, like you said, 22, and then we have some from 23, and then we can put some in next year's budget and we can cash flow it. No borrowing.
Potentially that would be the case, but in the original budget, when we planned it, I can't remember what the 250 was being borrowed or not. We certainly were borrowing a certain amount of money for the scuba gear, all the other capital equipment. I just can't remember off the top of my head whether there was enough in the reserves to cover the actual 100. Sorry.
We're getting tired of borrowing, so hopefully we can finesse. Okay, thank you.
I just had, so once the county passes, does that mean that, we can't actually do the debenture at that point because as you said, we don't have a final deal. So what's the amount that they're actually going to debenture on? or they're gonna approve.
Well, we're proving it based on the principle of what's here now, so I think I've estimated their total to be about 1 million with a contingency.
With the
We
contingency.
just don't know what the final debenture amount will be until the project's complete.
Okay. The only other question I have, so, the county is paying for their portion of construction, everything up front. I think it said that, within a 12-month period, either side could cancel, although I don't know how we could actually. Because we own the building. But so the rent that we collect from them is 100% over and above their debenture payment.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions of council? Councilor McGrath.
So this rental agreement, means it's set up as a emergency station, I believe, would likely be for the life of the building, I would hope. Or is there an escape clause? Because
They've asked for a 10-year. So the end of the day is, so 10 years, so the building itself physically is paid for. And they're gonna lease it for 10 years. As the minimum lease period. Could be longer. But that's what they've asked for. I think it's pretty low risk for us. At the end of the day, if they decide not to continue using the building, we've got a space that we can use or lease to another party.
so they're paying to put it up basically through a venture through us, so we presumably should be making money on that. And they're signed to a 10-year lease.
Right?
Yes.
And that 10-year lease includes amounts of building some capital reserve so that if there is an equipment replacement, an HVAC system or roof replacement, whatever. Not saying for renewal replacement sometime in the future, there's dollars being contributed towards that, so it doesn't become a burden to the taxpayer.
I can't remember how long ago it was, but a few years ago, the county did the same in Central Huron. And I'm told that it's worked out very well for Simpson. Doing the same type of arrangement, and they added it on to the end of their fire hall also. Didn't they, Jeff? Can I get a mover in a second? Okay, can I get a mover in a second? This is Deputy Mayor, Councilor Wilby. That the council of the municipality of Huron East award the tender for the municipality of Huron East Joint Operations Center proposed addition to Dom Construction Limited in the amount of $1,175,000 plus applicable taxes, conditional on Huron County Council also supporting to proceed with the project. And that subject to the above condition, the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute a Canadian Construction Documents Committee, CCDC, 14 design build stipulated price contract for the Huron East Joint Operations Center proposed addition. All those in favor? And motion carries. Thank you. Your meeting schedule.
Yep, so the 2024 meeting schedule came before you guys, pretty standard with the first and third Tuesday. Exceptions are August, where we traditionally have that one meeting per month for AMO conference. And we kind of discussed doing this in July to give that summer break. As the agenda is usually light at that time frame, and then everything else is back to the first and third Tuesday. There is a note of the September meeting, if this falls along the same time as the fall fair, to go back to the BMGCC, since it will be renovated then. I did put on a 4:30 start, just so that everything can be done prior to any events or activities that people would want to attend for the fall fair.
Can I get a mover to accept the new schedule? Councilor Fisher.
No question, Mr. Mayor, please.
I'll get a seconder and then you have the floor.
Okay.
Second by Councilor Deal. Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you to clerk. The 4:30 start, I wonder how that will impact. There's 5 councilors that work right now.
This was just a suggestion, so if it doesn't work for council, we can leave that. I think the dinner is usually a 30 dinner, according to this year's schedule, so. If we want to put it later again, we can. It was just a
It's not
suggestion, so that it
hard,
doesn't, so that the evening's free for those attending the fall fairs.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, hopefully everyone knows well enough in advance. We can change the schedule 2 weeks in advance if we need to. Yeah. So I have a mover and a seconder that the council of the municipality of Huron East establish the following meeting schedule for 2024 and that the September 17, 2024 meeting be held at the Brussels Morrison Gray Community Center BMGCC with a 4:30 PM start time. All those in favor? And motion carries. Correspondence.
One correspondence, this is just from the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare in Quebec, Ontario. They're just asking that we proclaim October 17, 2023 as the annual childcare worker and early childhood education appreciation day with the sample motion that they had included in their package.
That's a long sample.
It is.
Staff have given me two options. We can either note and file, or we can choose to declare October 17th as appreciation day. What's council's desire? Councilor Deal.
That we choose to.
Okay, accept it. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor. And whereas years of research confirms the benefits of high quality early learning and childcare for young children's intellectual, emotional, social, physical development and later life outcomes, and whereas child care promotes the well-being of children and responds to the needs of families and the broader community by supporting quality of life so that citizens can fully participate in and contribute to the economic and social life of their community, and whereas trained and knowledgeable registered early childhood educators and child care staff are the key to quality in early learning and child care programs, and whereas registered early childhood educators and child care workers will be vital to the success of the Canada-wide early learning and child care system, therefore be it resolved that October 17, 2023 be designated the 23rd Annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day in recognition of the education, dedication, and commitment of the child care workers to children, their families, and quality of life in the community. All those in favor? Motion carried. I have nothing under unfinished. I'll go down to council member reports. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I don't have anything, we never had a council meeting in a while, so we don't have one till next meeting, so do anything else.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other boards, committees, meetings, or seminars anybody wants to report on? Seeing none at this time. Actually, I'd like to ask a question. Who's all going to AIM? I'm going, Councilor Fisher, Councilor Dalton. Okay, not staying down. It's too close. It's cheaper to drive back and forth each day than it is to get a hotel room in London nowadays. It's good that we've got some representation there. Are there any requests by members of council this time? Councilor Chartrand.
Yeah, last council meeting, I made a request that we have a report on all past debenture loans that we have and current ones that we are anticipating. So we have a document to know where we're at. I don't know when that'll come, Brad.
September meeting.
September meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I did follow up with Brad after that and reaffirmed that that request was made.
Yeah, because a lot of us, even when Brad did his report, couldn't remember if we debentured part of this or that. We all got a document, we know exactly.
Yeah.
And it might be an eye opener when we get the final document, just how much we plan on borrowing.
Councilor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is Chief Redmond here?
No.
I just wondered where are we at with the fire alarm, please, Mr. McRoberts?
He's aware of the request, obviously, but it'll take some time commitment, Councilor Fisher, for him to resolve the issue. And I think right now he's got a lot on his plate. So I'm not sure how soon it will be. I'd like to get some of his other priorities under a go before we tackle that one. Okay, if I could.
If I can ask Councilor Fisher, was this to get the siren back in operation?
Yes.
Okay, I was also asked by a member of the public. I got cornered in the grocery store one day, and I also had mentioned to Ken, I said, it's not that I'm asking them to go ahead and do it, but I said I was asked by a member of the public if it was something we were gonna get back in operation. Now, I'm told unfortunately, it's not only the Seaforth one that's not working here, the Brussels one is not working at the moment either. So there is a little bit of an issue with the system. But they are aware of it. And aware of the fact that there are members of the public that would like to see it back in operation.
The fireman wanted that. That's the fireman. I'm really disappointed in this council, not council, sorry, that's right. I guess our actions as council. Design Concrete had been trying to buy property to put storage on for a long time. And we did nothing but throw roadblocks up. Well, lo and behold, property's been sold, but not to them. And it would have been quite convenient for them because right now they're trucking their product all over Huron East to store it. They are no longer a solely owned company. They've been bought out by, I think the name of the company is Ferris, where has everything else to get bought out. Ferris has 25 acres of land in Mitchell. And let's not be too surprised if we don't see this place going one little product at a time off to Mitchell. And I know we've thrown so many roadblocks up in front of that man. He spent $50,000, I think, at one point to try and get it done. Now, the farmer got fed up trying to get things done, put it up for sale and sold pretty quick, obviously. So I'm a little disappointed in that. When I was speaking to Mr. Hines himself, I was down there the other day doing the job and asked if he said, no, he just got sick of trying to jump through hoops and kick down roadblocks to get something done. So just so council's aware that if we do see it exiting to the west, we didn't do too much to keep it here.
Yeah, I'd like to, and on your, observation in the fact that I certainly don't see it the same way. There were times in the past where, other staff members, were pushing to have some sewer systems paid for by them with any extra property and stuff, and I did not agree with those plans at the time. But I thought the last time that we had the Duracell, I thought was the name of the company.
Well, with their lawyers here.
Yeah, and when we also had, the other party that they've had a dispute with for a couple of decades. It was down to them coming to an agreement, and every time it seemed like they were both ready to, somebody would pick up. And they just wouldn't go ahead with it. I'm gonna say the municipality did a pretty good job of laying out something that was not costing them any on our behalf. They just had to come to an agreement between the two other parties that were not part of the municipality. And that was the last roadblock. I don't think the municipality of Huron East held up the last possibility of it going through at all.
I respectfully disagree with you, Your Worship. Because we wanted to change the road direction. As far as the sewer issue, the gentleman said from the get-go, he would buy the land if he decided he was gonna develop a new plant on said property. He would gladly sign an agreement that he would service it. The other side of that agreement anyways was if he applied for a building permit, we could have forced him to do it once he purchased the land. So that agreement really didn't mean anything. But at the end of the day, my only concern is we gotta find a way to work with these people instead of work against them. And I realize Bridges and them, but they came to their agreements. You know, at one point, we wouldn't, I think one of the current conversations come up at this council table was, well, you can't use our road to take your product into the field. They didn't need our road. The field's right beside the property they have. But we balked at that. So anyways, I just wanted to bring that information forward. The fact that, you know, we should be more vigilant next time if this ever arises again to try and kick down fewer, or put up fewer roadblocks and your requests and everything else. That's my pet peeve for the day.
Thank you for your comment.
Well, anytime, yeah, thank you for yours, too, appreciate that.
Councillor Sharkey.
I can remember two occasions. One of them, Denise was here doing the presentation with all the groups. And there was a solid agreement. And it was gonna go forward. And Mr. Hines pulled the plug at the very last minute. Then we had our last meeting where we had the lawyers from all the parties here. And everyone sat here and agreed to everything. And in line with that agreement, Mr. CEO, we were looking at the possibility of maybe buying part of the other property and use it for future industrial development. And it was supposed to come back to council. It never did, but the deal that all the lawyers had agreed to here, I guess, collapsed. The best way to, so this thing's been going on for a long, long time. Every time we thought we had an agreement and it was gonna go forward, it fell apart.
Councillor Stefan.
Yeah, I, exactly the same, and, you know, I'm new to the council, so I, you know, respect everything. The last, I was under the impression that we're gonna go back to the Wilson family, and then come back to council to see what options were available. And then all of a sudden, it's sold. So there were no options that were presented to council to make that decision. And it really, you know, other than we don't like borrowing money, it would have been a great opportunity for us to buy some development land, or at least talk it as a council. And it never came back to us.
So, and maybe I'm wrong, council can correct me if I am, but my understanding was if Duracell was buying their parcel, we were looking to buy the property to the north of their parcel so that it was a straight cut line across. We didn't get involved because their whole deal fell apart, and that's why we never had an opportunity. If this council wants to go out and purchase industrial land to have it available, which we've done in the past, that's not necessarily an investment, but it would take borrowing the money to do it at this point. At least in the past, when we did it, we had the funds available so that we could bankroll it ourselves. We're not in a position right now with what we put forward as the next 5-year budget to be able to do that. Still doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. If a good opportunity came along, I think council should always consider it. Whether they make the decision or not will depend on the council, but
So again, it never came back to council. Whether it collapsed or not, the point could have back to council that it collapsed, so we don't have that opportunity. The bottom line is that discussion stopped before it even began.
I understand, except for the fact that it's not that we didn't pursue. We had already given direction, but our direction was to buy the remainder. But the first part never sold, so there was no remainder to purchase. We never were, staff were never given direction to go to Wilson's, to the best of my knowledge, on their own and say, we want to buy this, doesn't matter what you're doing with that. Staff were never given that direction. CAO?
We can have further conversation. It's on the agenda for the closed session. So we can have further conversation about that in closed.
Thank you.
That was requests. Are there any notice of motions? Any announcements at this time? Okay, seeing none. Then I will go to the bylaws. Can I get a mover and a second for the zoning bylaw? Councillor Deal. Councillor Chartrand. Be it hereby resolved that bylaw 55 of 2023, a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw 52 of 2006 to give them first, second, third, and final readings signed by the mayor and the clerk and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. All those in favor? Carried. Can I get a mover and a seconder to go into closed session? Councillor Wilby, Councillor Steffler, that a closed meeting of council be held on Tuesday, August 8, 2023 at 6:39 in the Town Hall Council Chambers in accordance with section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 for the purpose of the following matters. Number one, Adoption of July 18, 2023 closed session of council meeting minutes. 239, paragraph 2, paragraph, or subsection B, subsection F, personal matters about an identifiable individual and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege. And 239, paragraph 2, subsection C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. And that CAO Brad McRoberts, manager of the Nasper Early Childhood Learning Center, Candace, and I'm sorry, Candace, Sula, Sila, Sula, thank you. Director of Community Services, Lisa Bedard, and our treasurer is not here tonight. And clerk, Jessica Rudy remain in the closed session. All those in favor?